Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:07. It's O'Connor and Company, and we bask in the afterglow of last night's Yacht Rock Festival. There, the Yachtly Crew concert at the Birchmere, where Sean Spicer bought a round of drinks for himself and his wife. What a generous guy he is. Coming up later in the program, 6:35 will bring us Cal Thomas. At 7:05, Ian Pryor of America First Legal, along with one of his clients, Seth Wolf, father of one of those suspended boys from Loudoun County Schools. 8:05, Senator Ron Johnson. 8:35, Chairman of the RNC, Joe Gruters, joining us to talk about the Virginia election. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor, and Sean Kennedy is with us this morning from Virginians for Safe Communities. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. That's all.
Are you rocking the yacht rock yourself right now?
I'm on a speedboat from Venezuela.
I would look to the skies if I were you. Make sure
I'm
that
praying for deliverance. Yeah,
Exactly.
From the yacht rock.
All right, so we're thoroughly enjoying Kamala Harris's book tour. First, because it makes her look weak and pathetic, whining and complaining that she would have won if she'd only had a little more time. I always want to point out she named the book 107 Days, which is already just a big excuse, right? And she was never more popular or more poised to win the election than in the first 21 days. The fact is, the longer she had, the more the American people hated her. So the entire premise is distorted and twisted here, which is fabulous. Also, Sean, in the book, she's, of course, whining and complaining and throwing people under the bus. Her own staff, typical, but then even Joe Biden and Barack Obama, she's been, ruthless in throwing them under the bus. I don't see her having any political future.
I mean, I feel like this is such a moment of mass amnesia. By the end of 2022, and it had nothing to do with the election outcome. The New York Times, the Washington Post, I believe it was like CBS, it could have even been 60 Minutes. I remember it was one of the morning shows like Today or whatever, interviewed Kamala or did some story on Kamala. And it was like, why are you so hated? Why does everybody hate you? Why does everybody in the Biden administration think you're a moron? And they were like, there's no future for the Democratic Party because we don't have anyone other than Biden. Like, yes. it's the old or the dumb. Which one do we choose? Like, it's a Hobson's choice, whatever. And now we're all pretending like she's the second coming of Hillary Clinton or something, persuasive and
transcendent political figure of our time.
Yeah.
Well, I love it because as this continues to be the narrative, and no prominent Democrat can come out publicly and say she was tell the truth, which is she's an awful candidate. People don't like her. Voters don't like her. Even Democrats don't like her. And she was just horrible. She was handed the nomination on a silver platter. She didn't have to do anything for it. She was given over $1 billion in money that had already been raised for Joe Biden. She didn't have to do anything to raise that money. She had one decision to make. It was Tim Walz, and he was the worst. But no one can criticize her. So as far as I'm concerned, since that's their position on Kamala Harris, they would frankly be racist and sexist if they didn't just hand her the nomination again and give her a full, she only had 107 days, guys. Give her a full year now to see how well she can do. And I think we'd see a 50 state sweep in that election. That's it.
Is she more Michael Dukakis,
right,
or is she more,
George McGovern?
She's more of a McGovern.
Yes.
She McGoverns. She's not a McGovern. She's a little bite-sized government.
So I see that. That's good. Let's get back to the book tour. Yeah. It started, as these book tours often do, at the highest pinnacle of media exposure. In a 24-hour period, she had Rachel Maddow in prime time, and then she had Good Morning America as you woke up in the morning, and then The View. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right, if you're a Democrat. Then things started to tail off pretty quickly, and we have now, as of yesterday, Sean Kennedy, reached the Don Lemon portion of the book tour. Don Lemon, of course, fired and humiliated by CNN. He is now reduced to YouTube videos that hardly anyone watches and a Substack that hardly anybody reads. Here's the moment where Don Lemon got her got his, pardon me, exclusive with Kamala Harris. Cut 5.
You told us, not that you tried to tell us, you told us that he was going to turn, the police or the military on citizens.
I predicted almost all of it. There's a No King's Day march happening about a week from today. I think people are going to come out in big numbers, multi-generational, coming out to say that we know that we deserve better and we want more of our government than the weaponization of the rule of law. We want more than the corruption, the callousness, and frankly the incompetence we're seeing come out of the White House.
Yeah. Well, Madam Vice President, let me just tell you, I'm so happy with what you're doing. I'm so proud of you, and this is the energy. I hope you know this is the energy that people love. Everyone says, I don't want to be disrespectful. This is the Kamala that we want. You're hearing that, and I'm sure you're feeling it.
It's good. Look, I love our people, all of our people, in every shape, size and form, every color, every region. Now is the time for the people to remember their power.
And thank you for respecting and being so welcoming to independent media and journalists and streamers.
Of course, I think you're where it's at.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're where it's at.
You're where it's at. Of course, she couldn't bring herself to go to to Joe Rogan, a new independent media podcast that actually people listen to or watch, because she couldn't handle questions. Of course, you're where it's at. You only have 5 minutes, and you're only allowed to ask me about the book or tell me that I was right about Trump all along. By the way, the premise of that question, you warned us that he would be turning the military on citizens and rounding up citizens. Sean, maybe I missed something. You follow the news more than I. Has the president turned the military on innocent citizens and rounded them up? Put them in gulags?
No, but I think there were incidents a few years ago where Democratic political officials were arresting people for being outside.
Yes.
So they knocked on people's doors. They dragged them out. I think there was a guy who protested outside of an abortion clinic, and even though he offered to turn himself in, they showed up with machine guns at his house in front of his kids.
And I don't think that's when Trump was president.
No,
I don't
remember that.
But by the way, just from a media perspective, this was so humiliating for Don Lemon. This was not an exclusive sit down or anything. She was at some arena where she was doing the book tour that she's on, where they're doing theatrical presentations. She was backstage, and they had a giant banner set up for her book. She was standing there, and people would come and get 5 minutes with her if they paid the VIP price, shake a hand and do a photo op. And so Don Lemon went there with his, husband, boy toy dude, who had a camera or a smartphone, and he just brought with him a microphone. It wasn't even a scheduled interview. It was like, oh, I'm in line too. I'll go say hi to Kamala Harris and get 5 minutes on camera with her. It's just
the worst part is that Jim Acosta tried to do the same thing, but he couldn't afford the fee, so they didn't let him do the interview. They said, "Sorry, it's $50 or you don't get the interview." Right.
Oh, and listen to how real fast cut 6 here. You got to hear how it started. It's just so embarrassing for Don Lemon.
President, I hear that you are Lemonhead and that you are part of the Lemon Nation. Is that true?
No.
It's not true. How are you?
What does it mean to be a part of the Lemon Nation?
That you're part of that. You watch the show and that you look at my stuff on social and you see all the great stuff.
I am a huge admirer of your voice and your career, no doubt. But I am nobody's head.
Oh, that hurts. Oh, you're a Lemonhead. You watch the show all the time. No, I don't. And then. Oh, Don Lemon tweeted that out and said, I love her sense of humor. I don't think she was joking, Sean.
I'm pretty sure she thinks he's on CNN still.
Yes!
I think she's like, hey, Don, what can you have your CNN producers call me? This is a little awkward right now. There's that your boyfriend just has a phone. Can we get some real camera crews? I don't look good in this light.
Even better, I think she mistook him for a sportscaster on ESPN. Love your work on the NBA.
But can I go back to something she said in the first clip? She said,
"Yeah, hold your thought. You can in just a second."
Sure,
6:16.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
All right, let's wrap it up here on the Kamala Harris Don Lemon. You had one more point, Sean?
One of the things that we deal with is like Spanberger and Porter talking about accountability and responsibility, and these are like the negative meaning of those words when they say them. Like, I'm taking accountability, or I want accountability, or I'm taking responsibility, which means I'm not, and let's move on. One of the words that she used there, I'm going to just put my foot down. Kamala Harris said that she's for people of all shapes. I am not. The hexagon people must be stopped. That is unacceptable. There's too many of the hexagon people out there. Her tolerance goes too far. It's pointy.
You need to seek help. You're seeing things. But I appreciate it. That was good. All shapes. It's 6:18 now. Yesterday at the White House, a incredibly moving and powerful moment as the president moved heaven and earth to return from the Middle East. He got back at 3 a.m. We're told he did not sleep on Air Force One. He grabbed some quick winks in the middle of the day, greeted the president of Argentina at the White House for some state visits, and then in the afternoon, on Charlie Kirk's birthday, or what would have been his 32nd birthday, I believe, he welcomed his widow, Erica Kirk, and many family members and supporters to the White House to posthumously award Charlie the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Here's a little bit of what it sounded like. Cut 7.
Today we're here to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before, and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you.
His widow, Erica Kirk, then took the podium with a very moving speech, as we've now come to expect from her. She's been so poised in these moments. Here she is saying a few words.
Honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone that you love, because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have.
You know, having lost people in my life, something that struck me at this moment, Sean, was the fact that it's very hard for Erica to refer to Charlie in the past tense. And I get that, and I hope she continues that. I still do the same with loved ones that I've lost prematurely. It really was quite a moment there, and a great assembly of friends, family, and members of the movement and the media there at the White House. Well done by President Trump. I
agree. I mean, one of the things that I think, to your point about mourning, that I think a lot of people lose when they see people who are celebrities or whatever, because we move on so quickly. This person died or whatever. But in our own life, the reality of loss is different, experienced differently. Is not only is the past, present tense something to come to grips with, there's some point where the chaos after their passing sort of subsides and the reality sets in. And that is the lowest point for many people, that they're alone, that people stop coming by and talking to them or checking in on them or whatever. And that is a moment, I think, that I appreciate the White House doing this. Not only, obviously, it aptly fits on his birthday, but, you know, it's been a month. Like, it's shocking to say it's been a month, but, like, a month out is a different world than it was 2 days out versus whatever.
Agreed.
And a year is going to be hard in a different way.
You're right. And listen, it's funny, the media and the Democrats and the left, they've certainly moved on from the 2 days of hand-wringing, saying, well, all political violent rhetoric is inappropriate, because they're just continuing it. Just yesterday on MSNBC, they had this guy, Miles Taylor. He's the guy who wrote the Anonymous column about Trump in the first term. He was saying that Trump is illegally invoking the Insurrection Act and the federal government is plotting to invade states. This is the kind of rhetoric that leads to assassination attempts, and it's going unabated and celebrated and laughed at by the likes of Nicole Wallace. It's like they learn nothing. They want to bring on the next bullet with this kind of talk. It's reckless and irresponsible, and it's got to stop. Meanwhile, one lighthearted moment. Famously, President Trump at the Charlie Kirk Memorial said that he still has trouble praying for his enemies. Well, Erica Kirk mentioned that, and there's a great moment where she says, yes, Charlie prayed for his enemies, and then she looked over her shoulder back at President Trump, who was standing behind her, and Trump just sort of shrugged with his arms up and laughed.
God, when it was costly, but that's what we're called to do. Surprisingly enough, he did pray for his enemies. Which is very hard, but he did. He did. He did.
It was a great moment, and she's, again, handling this so beautifully. And well done, President Trump. 624.
Making sense of your world.
Thank you for what you do.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
You give me hope.
Making sense of the news.
Coming up, we'll talk to Cal Thomas, get his take on the Gaza-Israel peace deal. Next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:37. Thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company on this Wednesday morning in your nation's capital, 15th day of October. How did we make it halfway through October already? Good Lord. Coming up at 7:05, we'll speak with Ian Pryor of American First Legal with one of his clients, a dad of one of those suspended boys in Loudoun County, suspended from school because they didn't want a girl in their boys' locker room. And now they're facing a $125,000 bond just to hear their case in court. Doesn't sound like justice to us. 8:05 brings us Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. 8:35, Chairman of the RNC, Joe Gruters. It's Larry O'Connor. Sean Kennedy with Virginians for Safe Communities is with us all morning long. Sean, thanks for being here.
Thank you. And I can report that our communities are safe. Well, at least until the election.
Until Abigail Spanberger. Yeah, thank you for that. Let's bring in the legend. Sean, it's very rare you get to spend some time with a legend, and he is, in fact, the legendary syndicated columnist extraordinaire and bon vivant, Cal Thomas. Good morning, Cal.
Good morning. Beautiful sunrise in Washington. I'm seeing the pink sky coming up over National Airport. What a day to be in D.C.
Yeah, I'll say it's been a nice little stretch of weather here, hasn't it? This is a great time. Football season, fall is in the air, and there's a government shutdown. Well, what do you think the latest is here? Did the Democrats really get away with this again? Because it's clear they're responsible for this.
Well, it is, and as I said in my column yesterday, what's behind this is the continued addiction of too many people to government. You know, Ronald Reagan used to say, the only proof of eternal life in Washington is a government program. It was a great line. And this is about subsidies for health care that went in during COVID and are supposed to expire December 31st. Now, the Democrats don't have any other issue. They've lost on foreign policy. They've lost on domestic policy. So they sat together in a little room and said, what can we do to attack the Republicans and gain seats in the next election? I know, let's do health care. And that's what they're doing. It's cynical. It's ridiculous. And, you go back and look at what Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman, which started all of this stuff, attacking the rich and wanting to spread the wealth around. It's, as Obama said, it sounds like what Mamdani wants to do in New York. Socialism never works because, as Margaret Thatcher said, you soon run out of other people's money.
Well said.
Well, Cal, I want to ask you one question because you mentioned the government shutdown as sort of a almost a fable for how America sees government and everything like that. One of the things that I think is so curious here, and I wanted to get your take as a storyteller and a communicator, is how do you think the Republicans are doing in terms of telling the story that the Democrats' demands are for illegal alien health care? Because every time we turn on CNN, they supposedly are fact-checking Speaker Johnson or any given senator. So how would you rate their communication ability on telling the story about what the Democrat demands really are about?
Well, here's the bigger problem, Sean. People have become too reliant on government and less reliant on themselves. And the Democrats know this. And so they keep all of these programs going, and this is why DOGE was such a threat to them, exposing these outrageous expenditures on gay activities in South America, and crazy stuff. And the Democrats said, well, that's only a small percentage of the budget. Well, small percentages add up to bigger ones. There's a lot of stuff we don't need. Government has grown too big and spends too much. The problem for Republicans is, and always has been in recent times, if you try to cut even the rate of increase in spending, the media will be right there finding some woman holding a baby saying they're going to kill my child. Yeah. And the Republicans have never really come up with a really solid answer for this. There is an answer, but it requires people becoming more responsible and turning to government as a last resort, not a first resource.
Yeah, well said, sir. That said, though, in this case, even if you do want to have the debate over extending Obamacare and further subsidies for insurance companies, which is really what the Democrats are fighting for here, let that sink in, subsidies with your tax dollars for insurance companies to artificially make insurance premiums seem lower, that's fine, have that debate. But that's not, the government shutdown is not contingent on that. There's a clean bill in front of Democrats. They can continue funding our troops and then still have that debate.
Exactly right. But, once you're addicted, it's like drugs or alcohol. Once you get an addiction, it's very difficult to break. And not only the addiction, but the notion of entitlement and greed. When I was growing up in Washington, I never envied people who had more money than I did. I'd say, what's their example? I want to be like them someday. But now the attitude is, if you make $2 and I make $1, you make me 50 cents to make it fair. Well, that's socialism. That's crazy. That's not the kind of attitude America was built on. I want to know how. This is a land of opportunity, not guaranteed equal outcome. But we've lost all that. It's not taught in our schools. It's not taught in our universities. And the politicians appeal to human nature, because I'd rather those evil guys who are making $1 million and I'm down here just trying to make a budget. This is what they promote, and it always works for them, sadly.
Well said, sir, as usual. I'd be remiss in our final minute here, Cal, if I didn't get your reaction to the scene in Jerusalem and in Egypt earlier this week with President Trump signing the peace deal there. Is this, as many have hoped, a foundation for lasting peace, or at least building upon the end of this conflict?
Well, Larry, I think you have to look at the charters for these terrorist groups that demand the elimination of Israel and the killing of Jews. You have to look at past behavior. The stock market, you're required to say past behavior, performance is no guarantee of future results. Well, in this case, it is. I mean, unless they stop teaching school children to hate Jews, unless they stop their terrorist activities elsewhere, I think this is only a temporary fix, because the hatred of Jews runs deep. Let me just read you something very quickly from the Palestinian Authority's publication they put out every couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
It said, in their October issue, it said, it may be necessary to find a way to persuade Hamas to completely leave the area for a year or two, the area meaning Gaza. Later, when things become clearer, we can look for ways to bring Hamas back to operation. Well, there you have it.
Yeah, there it is. It's all subterfuge. Yeah. Listen, if you're not skeptical, or at the very least incredibly suspicious of where things are headed here, you haven't been paying attention to history. Cal has, and that's why I commend you. I've gotten a preview of his column tomorrow about this very topic, and I commend it to you for your reading. Thank you, Cal. Always great to talk to you, sir.
Thank you, Larry. John. Thank you.
You bet. Enjoy your day in D.C.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Barack Obama appeared on a podcast. Marc Maron is the host of this podcast called WTF. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. I thought it was pronounced that way.
You mispronounced it. It's macaroon.
Ah, macaroon. There it is.
Callback. Sorry.
Marc Maron. Marc Maron. It is just a gratuitous mockery of his name because he's a brain-dead liberal. Anyway, he has this podcast, WTF, and he's ending the podcast. It's a podcast he started back in 2009, long-running podcast, one of the OG podcasts, I want to say. First, it's a bit of a trifle, but let me just say, Obama put this out there on his X feed, and he said, more than a decade ago, I sat down with Marc Maron, in his garage to tape something new called a podcast. It was 2015 when he did this. But we were all listening to podcasts. We were doing. Adam Carolla had 6 years worth of a podcast already going on. Ben Shapiro's podcast was already started. It wasn't new. Boomer. I mean, maybe you hadn't heard a podcast, but again, this is Obama trying to sort of narcissistically sort of prop himself up and fluff himself up by saying, look at me, I was so groundbreaking. I know Trump went on Rogan and everyone's giving him credit, but I went on podcasts. I was the first to get it. No, he wasn't. Podcasts had been around for years. It's just little things like that, Sean, that the media just eats up. And
we didn't have manned flight before.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Barack Obama ran for president in 2008. He brought that to us.
This strange, wild thing called rockets. No one knew about this before I got there.
To the moon.
Also, by the way, the body language in this video podcast, he's sitting there with his legs crossed in a way that he looks like a pretzel. He's so withdrawn and sort of beaten down. And most of the podcast was him just whining and complaining about Trump successfully undoing everything that he did as president, which is glorious.
To be fair to the former president of the United States, if you, the audience, knew what Marc Maron looks like, he kind of looks like a deranged vagrant. So wouldn't you be sitting back a little? I mean, it kind of looks like there's a homeless guy in your hotel room, and you're kind of like, I don't know what to do here.
That's
all right,
fair.
we'll do the interview. Don't stab me with a broken bottle, please.
Yes.
It does feel a little like you just look. He's leaning. The podcast host is leaning forward, and Obama's leaning back and holding clutching his pearls. So.
Again, not to belabor the point, but I started doing a podcast in 2009. Through Breitbart, all right? And we were already 4 years late. Podcasts really became popular when Apple set up iTunes and made them ubiquitous for people in 2005. Obama did this in 2015, literally 10 years later. So, again, it's just a pet peeve that he says, and look at me, I did this new thing called a podcast that no one had heard about. You're welcome, America. I'm the one who made it work. Anyway, here's Obama. Bear in mind as you hear this clip talking about Trump, and he refused to say the word Trump. He would say, my successor, my successor. As you hear Barack Obama say the following words, bear in mind that he was the man who energized, motivated, and compelled his CIA director, his FBI director, and his DNI to manufacture or handpick, cherry-pick intelligence to lie to the American people and tell them that Putin had picked Trump the winner and hacked the election to make it so. Now listen to what he has to say today. Cut 10.
We don't want, kangaroo courts and trumped-up charges. That's what happens in other places that we used to scold for doing that. We want like our court system and our Justice Department and our prosecutors to be, and our FBI to be just playing things straight and looking at the facts and not meddling in politics the way we've seen later.
Sean Kennedy, the shameless nerve of this man to sit there with a straight face and say that is the absolute audacity.
I mean, Eric Holder, the people who he had running the Justice Department make Merrick Garland look like like a Catholic priest, just calling it down the middle, making very clear ethical, moral judgment. I mean, he had the whole place was run by his political wingmen. And,
that's right.
And he's telling us that, that's not how we did it. He is, I will give him credit, he's a great communicator, but he is very successful in whitewashing and memory holding his legacy in terms of good, bad, or ugly. We people are always like, I remember the civil days of the Obama era when everyone was hunky-dory and there was no negativeness, and obviously we had Russia in a corner and there was no problem whatsoever, aside from the Crimea invasion or him turning to Medvedev saying, tell Vladimir I'll have more flexibility after the election. I don't know why Obama's Russian in that accent, but at the same time, it's like there's all these scandals that happen, and people literally say the worst scandal in the Obama administration was a tan suit, and I'm being gaslit on a daily basis.
That's right. It is the audacity of dope. Thank you, Barack Obama. We're so done with him. And luckily, though, honestly, I feel like Democrats sort of roll their eyes when he does this, too, and they're pretty much done with the show as well. It's all ego. It's all narcissism, and it's all just so very 2010. It's 6:54.